All right, guys, I just want to welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick here. We're doing our analysis for the four games going down Friday night in Week 8 of college football, dishing out betting predictions for all those contests. Pretty respectable slate with two ranked teams in action. Everything started Louisville traveling to Miami, taking on the undefeated Hurricanes. Miami putting up 35 points per game. This is a team has had pretty well balanced approach this season. Carson Beck proving to be a very good quarterback. He's been very efficient. Really been protecting the football at 73%. Malachi Tony, C.J. Daniels have been great for him in the past game. And then, you have a massive offensive line led by Francis Mauigoa, Mark Fletcher, Sharmar Brown, some physical running backs that fit right in, going up against a Louisville team that has a very good defensive line. I think this is a group that's been very impressive against the run this year. Less than 90 yards over the last two games as they've entered conference play. You're led by two transfers, Wesley Bailey, Clev Lubin, off the edge. These guys have been tremendous. TJ Quinn at linebacker. He's been getting some good help from some of the newer guys like TJ Capers and Caleb Perry. For Miami, this is a team, Nick, that I feel like they should probably have been opening things up a little bit more against some opponents, but I think they're being very conservative at times because, under Mario Cristobal, you've seen plenty of games get away from them. And so I've seen that against Florida State. They have a massive lead, and they're just running the football downhill in the piles. They weren't even really trying to close that game out. It ended up being a much closer score than it probably should have. But for Miami, this is a team that's playing with house money. Being at home is great. You're going up against a Louisville passing attack that has been pretty good. Miller Moss, he did have some boneheaded decisions in their loss against Virginia, where their defense actually played great, but they had two turnovers resulting in 14 points for Virginia, and that was a big reason why they lost. Miller Moss, though, in conference played 300-plus yards in both games. Chris Bell, one of the nation's best pass catchers. You got Colin Lacey alongside him who can make plays in special teams. I think Louisville can cover this one, Nick, because I think they have a good enough offense. Their run game has been very poor. Isaac Brown has not been able to get loose yet this year. Against these top-tier opponents, that is, early on in the season. He was able to have some big runs. But in conference play, it's been a pretty sluggish approach. The offensive line's been very disappointing, and I think Miami, with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor and all that heat on the interior, is certainly going to be a significant matchup challenge. But I think Louisville's a good enough team to hang around and not lose by 2 touchdowns. 35-24 final for me. I think Miami will do its thing on offense, but I think Louisville will have some success through the air. I think they'll also be able to come up with some timely stops due to their defensive front that's going to give them opportunities in short fields.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is an opportunity for the Cardinals to be competitive in this game and really keep it closer than 2 touchdowns as the spread would suggest. I think this is a talented Louisville roster that's got an opportunity to head down to South Florida and compete here. I think Miller Moss is a strong quarterback, even if he's not having the greatest seasons in terms of what you expected out of him. 67% comp rate, 1,300 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, 4 picks. A little sloppy. Certainly got to clean up his game overall, but I still think he's a really good quarterback that's comfortable and confident, can certainly make this a contest. Chris Bell has been phenomenal. 500 yards on the season for him, 100 yards per game as well, 4 touchdowns. Colin Lacey hasn't gotten the end zone yet, but he's been a nice target for them with 287 yards. He's a good short range target there. He gets short gains and is really productive in that regard. Skinner, the tight end, has been solid as well. They need a few of these other guys to step up, though. Certainly looking at Dakari Collins, Chris Hughes, Antonio Meeks. These are guys that got to step up, get some more targets, and be involved. Hughes has a touchdown so far, but certainly want to find a way to get him more involved in this offense as well. I think that would certainly benefit this team in the long run if they can find a way to get some of these guys more involved on offense. The defense has been solid for Louisville. It's nothing special. 21 points per game, giving up 3.28 yards per attempt on the ground. The secondary has been playing great football. 6 interceptions to 5 passing touchdowns given up, which I think is really solid. The offense scoring 36 points per game so far this season. I like what D'Angelo Hutchinson's been able to do in the secondary. He's been really solid for this team. TJ Quinn, Clev Lubin, both these guys have been really solid for them. Lubin, 5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 4 pass breakups. He's a big figure on that defensive line that is really factoring in and making a lot of key things happen for this team. As for Miami, this is still a very talented team that I think people are not really looking at how good they are and really their opportunities to compete in what now looks like the ACC is theirs to lose. They've taken the driver's seat in that conference, and they're playing great football. They've gone through the state of Florida. They beat Bethune-Cookman, South Florida, Florida State. They've just been gunning through the gauntlet in that state. They beat so many teams, including South Florida, Florida State, beating all those teams from the state. They beat those teams pretty convincingly in all those games. Interesting scheduling note, they won't leave the state of Florida until November. Kind of funny. I wonder if that will do them some problems in the future later in the season, as they don't have many road games till later on in the slate. They're home in this one, 35 points per game. The offense looks good. Carson Beck looks solid here. I'd like to see him try to run the ball a little bit more, certainly if possible. I think they need to get a little more balance on the ground. Mark Fletcher, Shamar Brown are two solid backs. Fletcher certainly 428 yards rushing for him and 5 scores on the ground. Want to get him a little more involved. Beck has been solid, one of the Heisman frontrunners for a reason. I think he's probably the number 3 Heisman guy right now for me, behind Mendoza and Ty Simpson. 73.4% comp rate, 200 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, 3 picks. There's an opportunity for him to attack a secondary that's looked a little vulnerable at times, but still a really strong unit. If he can put up good numbers against his secondary, I think he'll certainly put himself in a good spot, continuing to go forward throughout the season. He's got a wide range of guys stepping up for him. CJ Daniels has been the most promising, 270 yards receiving and 5 scores for the former Liberty and LSU player who's really stepped up and been strong for this team. Malachi Tony, 375 and 3 scores, has been good. As for the Miami defense, I think it's been a really solid unit, 13.6 points per game. But you saw them let Florida State get back in that game late and make it competitive in that contest. I think that's something will happen here, where Louisville will get back into this game late in the game and make it a little bit more closer than it really looks like. Ruben Bain, 26 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Pretty good numbers for him. Mohamed Torre, Akeem Mesidor have been really dominant. Wesley Bazante has been a great leader at linebacker. The secondary is a little bit concerning for me still. I think it's a unit that's a little bit of a work in progress. 5 interceptions and 5 touchdowns on the season for that Miami secondary. There's some pieces I want to see a little bit more out of. I think Miller Moss will certainly try to target Chris Bell and get him involved. What was that matchup look like for the Miami defense? Can they cover Bell and put him in a tough position? A very intriguing game going down at 7 o'clock on ESPN. I like this matchup a lot here. I think Louisville just have enough pieces to be competitive in this game and cover a 13.5 point spread. That's just a little too lofty for me. I think it should be closer probably to 10 or 9 points ultimately, but that's where the line is at right now. I think they will cover this. Louisville will be competitive, but Miami will ultimately get the win, notch another conference win as they continue to be in the driver's seat in the ACC.
Now you go to the game on Fox at 8 p.m. Minnesota hosting Nebraska. This line opened at 5.5 in favor of the visitors. Now it's up to 8.5, which I'm feeling is all kinds of juice on Minnesota. This is a team that's coming off a bit of a tough game at home against Purdue. Beat them 27-20, but they allowed a lot of explosive plays on the ground. For the most part this year, though, the run defense has been pretty solid, led by Anthony Smith, Devon Williams, Maverick Bronikowski in that front seven. The secondary, I think these corners are really not that skilled. Coy Parrish, though, of course, at safety, is a big-time playmaker for them. Nebraska coming off come from behind victory, a close game, and they were able to win, Nick. They were down late to Maryland, and they were able to be led downfield by Dylan Raiola, who had 4 touchdowns. A lot of those came in the red zone. He had 3 interceptions as well. They really weren't all that bad. The one it was a pick six. It looks like a miscommunication with the receiver. So this is a guy who's still been dealing, but you do have those turnovers at least 1 in 3 straight games now. I do think these receivers do have a bit of a significant edge, though. Neziah Hunter, Ja'Cory Barney, Dane Key. That's a nice trio. I think is one of the best in the country, and they're going to get better as the season progresses. The run game also has nice physicality, led by Emmett Johnson, who also had a breakout performance against Maryland, 176 yards rushing. He's proven he can be a bell cow. He can be explosive. Johnson's one of the top rising backs in the country. I mean, I love this Nebraska team, Nick, and we talked about it coming into the preseason, and they're doing exactly everything that we expected. Biggest issue here is their run defense got smoked against Michigan. Maryland had a nice rushing touchdown as well from about 20, 30 yards out week 1. Man coverage got burned by Brendan Sorsby. He just kept taking off and running for big chunks. Can Minnesota take advantage of that, though? This rushing attack has been one of the poorest ones in the country, 112 yards per game. They can't do anything against anybody. I mean, they had more yards against Ohio State in that solo game than they had against Purdue and Rutgers combined, Nick. 68 against the Buckeyes, 65 in those other 2 games. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. Darius Taylor coming back, though, fully healthy, it appears, should certainly do them wonders. His efficiency the last couple games has not been all that great, but his value as a pass catcher is still there. He led the team with 6 grabs and 67 yards last week. Drake Lindsey, this young quarterback, he had a standout performance against Rutgers a few weeks ago, so he's proven he can play the position and do it very soundly. And I think that his receivers, it's a talented bunch. They just haven't been producing very well. Javon Tracy, Lameek Brockington is shockingly their top guy. Jalen Smith, a freshman, has been a big-time playmaker for him. I think Jamison Gears is a nice tight end in Nebraska. They've had some issues with these linebackers in coverage, guys like Javen Wright and Vincent Shavers. I think they can make some things happen against these corners led by Andrew Marshall downfield as well. So I think Minnesota, Nick, they're going to play better than we've seen them really play in most games. I think they're going to keep this one close on a Friday night. A bit of a cold night in Minnesota. I think they'll cover. Nebraska will win 27-20, but it's not going to be easy.
No, it's not going to be easy. I think this is an opportunity for Minnesota to really give this team a tough fight and not make it easy for them. When you looked at the Nebraska schedule, I circled two opportunities for them to potentially slip up at Maryland, at Minnesota, back to back. A short week. I know it's only one day less, but they're playing on Friday instead of Saturday, so that's 6 days instead of 7 days from the last game. So a short week nonetheless. They still have to travel on the road. And I think this is a potential slip up opportunity. You saw them almost lose to Maryland, who was really competitive in that game and made it really close here. And this is an opportunity for Minnesota to give them a similar scare. I think Nebraska is a really talented team. Matt Rule's having a really good season. His team's in a really good spot. Obviously, a lot of speculation for him involving the Penn State job. So you wonder what his focus will look like regarding that, considering I'm sure he's interested in that, although I don't know if he will actually take the job. As to this Nebraska team, I think this is a very talented roster that is certainly one of the better teams in the Big Ten. And you're seeing that 41 points per game is a lot better than I thought they would look on offense. It's a significantly higher number than I figured they would have this season. 4.22 yards per attempt on the ground is slowly getting, rising that number. Emmett Johnson is certainly helping that, as proving to be the number one back for this team. 12 rushing touchdowns. And then Raiola has been really solid for this team. 16 passing touchdowns, 5 picks, 73% comp rate, 600 yards passing. Yeah, he had the 3 picks against Maryland, but like you said, there 2 of them were really not his fault. One of them was not the greatest throw in the world from him, but in general, I'm willing to overlook that because his completion state or percentage otherwise has been really solid, which has really helped out this team. He's been putting the ball into good spots and has been accurate. 6.68 yards per play for this offense has been really solid. Johnson's a great leader on the ground, 650 for him, 6.2 and 7 scores. I have him in fantasy football for college football, and I think he's been a really good pickup for me. I got him late in the draft there, and he's been a solid leader for that team and really been good. As in terms of the wide receivers, I think Nazai Hunter, Jacoby Barney have stepped up where you were hoping they would step up in the preseason. Certainly Hunter, 415 yards for him, 20 or 19 yards for grab. That is 4 touchdowns on the season, about 69 yards per game for him. He's been really solid. While Barney and Key both have over 250 yards receiving and multiple touchdowns. While Lindenmeyer, the tight end, has been involved in the red zone as well and has been a key asset. The defense has looked really good as well. 18.7 points per game is probably a little bit higher than maybe you thought they were going to be, but still a very strong number. 4.5 yards per attempt on the ground, 11 rushing touchdowns, and then 4.51 yards per play. So the secondary has been absolute lights out. They've been having some trouble on the ground, which is why I think even though Minnesota is not having the best season on the ground, I think this is a game where they get right and have a big chance to put some production on the ground and really be competitive in that regard. I like a lot of the pieces for this defense. Singleton in the secondary has been really good. Vincent Shavers has been a strong linebacker, 5 TFLs for him. Javen Wright has 5.5 as well. 2 good linebackers for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. As for Minnesota, 27.3 points per game so far this season, 21.2 points per game given up. They got blown out by Ohio State. That makes a lot of sense, but they have 2 nice conference wins over Rutgers and Purdue. They lost to Cal on the road. So this has been an up and down season, but it's not been that bad for Minnesota. I think PJ Fleck's team is still playing good football. Drake Lindsey's been a decent quarterback. 6% comp rate's obviously not ideal. 1,200 yards passing, 9 touchdowns, 3 picks is not bad. They got to get into a groove on the ground, right? That's been the big issue for this team. They're not able to run the ball. 3.59 yards per attempt is not good enough, simply put. If they can find a way to improve that, they'll be super competitive in this game and the rest of the season. I think the passing attack under Lindsey's not been bad, but this is a run, supposed to be a run-first offense, supposed to have some success on the ground. Lameek Brockington has been a good wide receiver to watch for this team. Same thing with Javon Tracy. Darius Taylor, if he's playing at full strength, 205 yards for him on the ground, plus 118 receiving. He's a big difference maker. I think this will be a lower scoring contest here. I love the defense for this Minnesota team. I think this defense is phenomenal. Koi Parrish is such a fun player to watch. 35 total tackles, 2 TFLs, a sack, and a pick 6 for him on the season. He's been really good. Maverick Baranowski has been a phenomenal player in multiple different roles. They use him. 42 total tackles, 3 TFLs, and a sack. I think this will be an opportunity for Minnesota to be super competitive at home. I wouldn't be shocked if they win this game outright. I'd give it, maybe like a 25-30% chance they win this game outright, but I think they will certainly cover and be competitive. They'll fight to the bitter end here. I think the line moving up further is just making me feel better about this. I think the under could potentially make sense as well at 47.5 is what I'm looking at right now. I think this will be a very competitive game here. I think it'll be a low scoring, a lot of punts. These two teams will go back and forth. Nebraska will get the job done. Ultimately, I think Raiola will have enough to lead the day, and I think I'll take the team with a better quarterback in this one. But I think this will be no gimme. I think this Minnesota team is not a pushover. They're a very talented roster, playing in front of that rowdy home environment. They'll be really solid on a Friday night. I like this game to be really competitive. Probably the best game on the slate in terms of pure matchup competitiveness. I like what this game can provide potentially. I think Minnesota covers and will make it very difficult, but Nebraska wins outright.
Now I move to 9 p.m. on CBS Sports Network, a game that's going to have a lot of fireworks. Utah State, San Jose State, 2 teams that really don't have a defense, but they will both have an offense. Look at San Jose State, led by Walker Eget, 300-plus passing yards per game. Danny Scudero is one of the top producing receivers in the country. He's also had some other guys getting involved this year. Jackson Kenon, Leland Smith going up against Utah State's defense, who gives up 33 points per game. This is going to be an interesting contest. Totals sit at 64.5. I definitely think that is going to be in play, and I think that's going to hit. You're looking at Utah State back-to-back losses. They gave up 543 in terms of yardage to Vanderbilt. Went on the road to Hawaii, played a competitive first half, and they got smoked in the second. Gave up 546 in that one. Third time this year they've allowed 500-plus yards. Granted, they have played two SEC opponents in that. They also played Air Force, who's been running it up on everybody. Long story short, I think I've seen enough. This defense is not really good for Utah State. And I think for San Jose State, they have an offense that is just tough to slow down, especially on third down. They're sitting at about 45% on the year when it comes to conversions. Do they have much of a run game? No, I think it's improved this year. Jabari Bates getting involved, about 100 yards per game. It's about where it was last year against New Mexico and Idaho. They were very effective for them. Utah State, on the other hand, Nick, they have a Utah transfer still at quarterback, Bryson Barnes. This guy's tremendous. He's a nice dual-threat guy. He's putting up about 270 yards per contest. He's got 18 total touchdowns, only 2 picks. You look at some of his top weapons. Braden Piegan, 453 yards. Brady Boyd right behind him at 356. And then a run game that is definitely complimentary, as Miles Davis is a pretty impressive runner, putting up 416 and 3 scores. I think this is going to be an offensive affair, Nick. I think Utah State, they're only favored because they're at home. I'm going to stick with San Jose State, a team that's burned me in the past for sure, but a team that's also been favorable to me. So even as 3-point underdogs, I'm going to take them to get the job done outright with a stronger passing attack. But games like this are tough to predict when nobody really has a defense. I think the total, though, is going to be the best bet.
Yeah, I think this is a very intriguing game. It's definitely tough to pick because I think these are two teams that just cannot play defense and will be an absolute high-scoring affair. San Jose State gave up 29.2 points per game, not great. Utah State gave up 32.7 points per game, also not great. These are two very bad defenses here. A shootout is certainly unfair on CBS Sports Network late night. There will be a lot of points scored in this game. I think these two teams will trade punches back and forth. We saw San Jose State last week at Wyoming trade punches with them back and forth before ultimately losing that contest, while Utah State lost at Hawaii. Always tough to travel out there, so I'm not really going to take too much away from them. While they didn't look great in that game, they did also lose to Vanderbilt, which is a good SEC team, so I think it's not the worst loss on the road for Utah State. Bronco Mendenhall has a decent roster here, has a decent team, 34.7 points per game, about 5 yards per attempt on the ground, so they can certainly run the ball. They're rushing at a good clip there, 12 touchdowns, I beg your pardon, 6.56 yards per play, so decent in terms of those numbers here. I like what they have in Bryson Barnes. I think he's a decent enough quarterback, 64% comp rate, 1,300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, so he's accurate, protects the football, which I think is certainly key. They don't have a whole lot of guys involved in the pass game. It really is relying on Braden Pagan and Brady Boyd, who are the two guys that are getting tons of targets. Outside of that, Brock Lane, the tight end's getting some looks as well. But that's it. Those 3 guys are really the guys that get the catches here. They get the running backs involved as well. Javon Jacobs and Miles Davis are both involved in the pass game. They each have 18 receptions, so they're certainly involved in that regard. The 2 backs there are pretty solid. Miles Davis, 416 yards on the ground, 6.4 and 3 scores, and Barnes is a good runner himself with 6 touchdowns, 300 yards. I like this Utah State team to be competitive in this game and win this one. I think they have a very talented offensive pieces there. I think they'll win this shootout. This is a good San Jose State team, don't get me wrong, but they're scoring 24 points per game, so a little bit lower number. I know they played a tougher schedule, but I just worry about their rushing attack. 3.85 yards per attempt, 6 scores on the ground. I don't think it's quite good enough. I know they're a passing-heavy offense with Walker Eget having 1,800 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, and 3 picks. But I think having a lack of a run game will certainly come to bite them at some point in one of these shootouts. I think they'll just struggle with that balance. They do have Danny Scudero, who's a phenomenal receiver, 845 yards receiving, 17 yards to grab, 8 scores on 50 grabs. He is just absolutely incredible. Leland Smith's been a good receiver for this team as well. I think Utah State will find a way to force turnover to get the stops they need to win this game. I think at home I like them to be good value at this -3.5. I think they'll cover the spread, albeit barely, but get the job done in an absolute shootout. Expect a ton of points here. Expect a lot back and forth. Could be a ton of points in the first half as well. I like this game to go over, but I think Utah State will get the job done and win at home.
In the final game of the night, Cal hosting North Carolina. A lot has been made of Belichick and his staff as of late. They had a bye week to kind of get things right. I think a lot of people are overreacting to how bad this team is, Nick, because I feel like me and you are the only ones that really dove into the portal class, and it wasn't that good. What did people expect? You know what I mean? It's not like they're getting beat that bad. Like, I get it, UCF 34-9, not ideal. 38-10 against Clemson, not ideal. And then the week 1 against TCU was obviously a bit of a beatdown, but they're not playing that bad considering how awful this roster truly is. Going on the road to Cal, who started off hot against Duke, then got shut out in the second half, losing that one 45-21. For Cal, they have a great young quarterback, right? Jerron Kiawu. The true freshman 5-star has been tremendous. This guy really knows how to spin it as a lefty from Hawaii. Did have 3 picks against Duke, got in a lot of trouble against the good secondary. Against San Diego State, he made some mistakes and they got shut out in that game. So this has been an inconsistent squad, Nick, because they went on the road and beat Boston College that far as could be travel. They were able to get the job done. The team we just spoke about, Minnesota, has a chance of beating a ranked team this week, and they beat them by 2 scores. So Cal's been a really hot and cold team. It's been tough to really get a read on them. But I think you're against UNC. You're going up against a team whose defense has been respectable, I would say. I mean, they've really been kind of keeping them in ball games. I know Clemson almost had 500 yards on them, but they didn't run the ball, and nobody's really been able to run the ball outside of TCU. So they've been shoring things up a little bit, I think. And then you look at Andrew Simpson, great linebacker they added in the portal, Mekhi Gabor. Smith Vilbert, some of the top guys they did pick up in the portal have been balling out for him. Thaddeus Dixon's a great corner. I think North Carolina can hang around in this game. I don't really have a great explanation why. I just feel like a bye week in college football when you're under a new regime, a new roster, can do a lot of wonders for you. And Gio Lopez, I'm not sure if he'll be back. I anticipate he potentially will at quarterback, and that's good. I know he's not had that great of a season, but he's still a talented player who can ball out. And Mensa against Cal, he just balled out against this secondary. 265, 2 scores, was highly efficient. I think Cal's been playing some really good football this year, Nick, but again, they've been hot and cold, and maybe the bye week will do them wonders as well. But I'm going to take North Carolina to get some things going on offense, and I think this defense will be able to flow through the success that they'll have on that side of the ball, and that'll allow them to cover the spread in this one. It's just hard to imagine them getting blown out again, even though I think every inclination is pointing to a Golden Bears victory by a lot of points. I'm going to stick with the Tar Heels to get things done in terms of covering the spread. Cal should win the game.
Obviously, things are not going well in Chapel Hill, and it's certainly unraveling very quickly. This is a sinking ship, not dissimilar to Titanic, and sinking quite fast. But then again, you and I could see this coming from a mile away. I know it's easy to sit there and sit in your glass house in hindsight and say that this was quite obvious this was going to fall apart at North Carolina. But if you go back and listen to what we said in the preseason, this roster just wasn't good enough. They didn't make enough moves in the portal. They didn't bring enough talented pieces to get the job done and be competitive in the ACC. And I think that's very obvious from the jump with this team. Bill Belichick is clearly in over his head, and the constant rumors and constantly having to put out press releases saying that you're staying and not leaving, it's just not helpful and not really doing anything for the program. They're in a trouble spot here. This is sinking rapidly and not going well, and the last thing you need when it's not going well is a trip 3,000 miles across the country to Berkeley to a team that Justin Wilcox has some level of talent with. I know they're very inconsistent. Obviously, getting shut out by San Diego State was just very bizarre, and then losing in blowout fashion to Duke, but traveling to Boston College and winning in that contest, beating Minnesota as well. It's just a very weird, hot and cold team. It's hard to get a full read on what they're able to do out there in Berkeley. I think JKS, the quarterback, is a phenomenal young athlete. Yes, the 7 interceptions is not great, but I think he's still getting comfortable and getting confident in the pocket there. He's a freshman, so I expect mistakes out of him. I'm not entirely too alarmed with that. About 1,500 yards passing, 9 touchdowns, 62.5% comp rate. He'll get better as the season goes on. I think he's a lefty that has a ton of talent coming over from Hawaii, so I think he'll develop into a star quarterback and be really good for this Cal team once it's all said and done. Tron Grizel has been phenomenal at receiver, 400 yards receiving for him, 16.7 yards per grab, 1 score. Mason Minnie, the tight end, is certainly a great target in the red zone, 279 and 3 scores. Expect him to be involved. They can certainly move the ball on the ground as well, this Cal team, at times, which I think is certainly helpful. 24.2 points per game. They can relieve some of that pressure. They need to find a little bit more consistency with Kendrick Rafael, who is a good back for this team, 415 and 4 scores, about 70 yards per game for him on the ground. The defense has been solid for this Cal team, 22.5 points per game, 4.12 yards per attempt on the ground, 5.41 yards per play. Cade Uvalde, the linebacker, has been having an incredible season, 2 total tackles, 6.57 TFLs, and 1 sack. He's been a good leader for this team, while the secondary has some decent pieces, including Isaiah Crosby, who's been solid, and Hakeem Masses has 4 picks on the season and 7 pass breakups already. Unreal production from Masses in the secondary. 24 total tackles here. As for UNC, if Gio Lopez plays, I think he's still a good quarterback, even though he's still figuring out what's going on and getting more adjusted to that. Damon June is a decent back, but this is also a Carolina team that can't really run the ball. 3.79 yards per attempt, 18.8 points per game, 4.8 yards per play. It's just not really good enough here. They're struggling on offense. They're struggling on defense, 25.8 points per game. They're decent against the run, so maybe that's why they're potentially going to be competitive competitive, which is why I think you're making the pick that you're making because maybe they'll just stop the run and really stuff Cal and make them one dimensional here. But I think that Cal will have a decent day on the ground. They'll find a way to get into a groove and win a game out west and get the job done. I think they cover the spread when it's all said and done. I wouldn't be surprised at a loftier score than 14 points between the two squads, but I'll be a little conservative here. I think Cal's in a good spot. This team will get to a bowl game this year. I like what they're able to do. I think Justin Wilcox has got himself a decent roster. Yeah, the schedule's not easy going forward. I mean, you look at it, it's brutal. 3 road trips, including to at Virginia Tech, Louisville, and Stanford. But I think they get a big win here against UNC to push them closer to that bowl eligibility. I think this is a good team. And there's just too many question marks with North Carolina. They're just all over the place. I'm going to stay away from them throughout the rest of the season because I just cannot trust that team, and they are a complete disaster. Traveling 3,000 miles to Cal Berkeley is never easy no matter who you are. I think this is an opportunity for Cal to win a nice game late night on a Friday night. Certainly will be worth tuning into. Obviously, at that point, there'll be only one game still going on, the San Jose State game. So tune in this one, keep some eyes on it, see what this Bill Belichick team looks like. I don't think they look very good. I think they're in a tough spot here. I think Cal will win this game and cover the spread.
So, for today's episode, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.